Britain laid to rest its longest-serving monarch, Queen Elizabeth, on Monday. Thousands of mourners, including world leaders, witnessed a state funeral steeped in tradition. One Filipino nurse who once had a face-to-face encounter with the Queen took part in the procession. May Parsons of the United Kingdom's National Health Service joins us now from London. Thank you so much for joining us, Nurse May. What was it like? What were the emotions like being part of Queen Elizabeth's funeral?
Honestly, Rico, the emotions that were in there that day is absolutely phenomenal and so somber. You can just imagine kind of like losing someone that inspires you, that you think of as someone that, thinks highly of your organization, like the NHS, someone who is such an epitome of strength and service to people. Our recent kind of contact has just made it a little bit more painful for me because I've met her, I've spoken to her.
Yeah.
It was somber, it was extremely sad, but obviously I think for me it's a day to reflect on Her Majesty the Queen's service, of her lifelong service that she's done, not just for the British people, but across the Commonwealth and across the globe. It was really sad, but also a celebration of her life and what she has achieved.
And Nurse May, let's look back at that meeting that you had with the Queen. It was when the NHS was awarded the George Cross Medal. What was it like meeting her personally?
She was so lovely, Rico. I can't even describe it. You know, when I was saying to people that the way that people make you feel is the thing that will last for so long, and not the words that they say. That's exactly what the Queen has done to me. For someone so high up there, everyone looks up to her, and yet she has this capacity to make you feel so welcome in her own home. And she actually showed us that this is true service. You know, she's 96 years old, and still she tried her best to actually present the George Award to us. So it was really phenomenal, the event, because we weren't expecting her to be there, we were told. And for me, if that was my Lola, I'd be like, oh, were you still able to attend these things? But she did, and she tried really hard. And I think that's why it really impressed me that in the name of dedication and passion and service, this is what she did. But that day I was so welcome. I never felt as if I shouldn't be there. She made me feel as if I should be there with her, and she was so funny, and she was so her sense of humor is on point.
And also in that photograph that is being shown right now on your screens, it's not only the Queen who was there with you, also the future King, King Charles III. What was it like also meeting him?
Oh, it was absolutely. Honestly, I've never thought I'm going to be meeting the king as well, the future king. But he was so, he listens really intently to everything that you say. So he was very attentive, and he knows the things that were happening. So in terms of our workforce in the NHS, all those people that are not getting any kind of, media coverage, like all of the other allied health professionals, but he's interested with them as well. So it was so nice, and he's so attentive, and he really wants to try and help us out. So it's a good start.
It must have been so surreal to meet the Queen and, of course, the future King. Shaking their hands, having a conversation. Specifically with the Queen, what did she tell you? What did she share with you? And what did you tell her?
So when we first met, she asked me, "Oh, so what do you do?" Because obviously we were the first one to be called up in front of her, and she asked me, and I said to her that, "Oh, I look after the COVID wards in my trust, in my hospital," and I said I also did the COVID vaccination, and the chief executive of NHS England was there with me, and she said to the Queen, May didn't just do any vaccination. May did the first COVID vaccination outside of clinical trials in the world. And she quipped with, "Are you still alive?" So for me, it was so funny because she has this insight, and she probably have the empathy as well for us in recent years where the pandemic was obviously, devastating all of us. She knew how hard it was for us, for everyone in the healthcare, to be what we were going through, so that she empathized so much that she's asking me if I was still alive. I said, I'm absolutely exhausted, but I am still alive. And then she repeated it, and we were giggling nervously, and it was so funny because it took me back. It's kind of like, oh, she is funny, you know. So when people are saying, oh, she's got a really great sense of humor, you don't actually think about it until you see it and experience it. And she's so funny. When we went down to have our photos taken, she told us to not look miserable in the photos, which was again really funny. And she's, you know, she makes you really feel comfortable and at ease.
That was indeed a very special conversation with the Queen, Nurse May, that you will remember forever. And you have worked for Britain's National Health Service since migrating from the Philippines, close to 20 years now. I mean, you visited us here at the Final Word CNN Philippines studio. It was great to have you here live in our newsroom. How supportive was the Queen for Britain's Filipino nursing community?
She's absolutely very supportive of us, because she knows she's a very staunch supporter of the whole National Health Service and what it stands for. And they also realize that a lot of our workforce, especially nurses, are coming from abroad, and a lot of us are also coming from the Philippines. And even King Charles now is appreciative of the fact that there's a lot of us international nurses in here. So they do recognize the contribution as community, as Filipino nurses and working here. They do absolutely recognize our contribution here. So I think it's a good thing that they are there to support us, because they know what we give out to our communities and the help that we provide. So yeah, I think as Queen Elizabeth was a staunch supporter of NHS, I am pretty sure that King Charles is as well, and if not, going to be probably more than ever.
And many, Nurse May, will remember the Queen because she did so much for the country. A solid rock for all British for 70 years. She has touched many, many lives.
She has. And, you know, like I was saying before, for me as a nurse, her values, her service, her commitment to service, the 70 years of reign that she's done, those are the kind of epitome of dignity and, true strength of a leader. That is something that resonates strongly with me, because obviously as nurses, we also promised to serve our communities when we went into nursing. So everyone that I think the whole world is mourning the loss of Queen Elizabeth, because she has touched many lives. She's been a great patron of many, many charities that's obviously not impacted just British people, but the Commonwealth countries, but also across the globe. Her charities are known everywhere.
Nurse May Parsons, thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word.